and welcome to The Political Cabinet, which is a podcast where a friend and I discuss about politics and economics and basically learn about those throughout the episodes. I have my friend with me today, and you can introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm friends with Anabelle here through Discord. Hello.
Holdo. I love how incredibly enthusiastic that sounded when in reality it sounded like a lie. But,
No, Anabelle, you're not my friend.
But today we're going to be discussing about a few things. There's going to be, I have 3 politics topics and 3 economics topics, and then we have a segment that's going to go on later on into the recording. But I would like to discuss about our views on politics really quickly. I would like for you to take it away, though, since you are the guest.
Just basic views.
Yes.
Okay. So, I'm registered to vote currently, and I am a registered independent, but my political views are closely aligned with liberal. I consider myself to be a democratic socialist, and by no means in any way, shape, or form do I support Donald
Um, I am currently not registered to vote because I am underage. I will be turning 18 next year, so once I turn 18, it's time to register. But but I technically have I have democratic views, but I do somewhat support Republicans, but that's only when they actually do their jobs correctly and collaborate with Democrats, except Donald Trump. I actually because I really like the collaborations between Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich because they actually got work done. But in this day and age, no politicians actually get their work done. So I don't really appreciate that, but I am actually completely liberal. As much as I do support some, not every Republican, basically am a liberal and I consider myself a Democrat.
It's good to be open-minded, and if you couldn't tell already, this podcast is going to be pretty biased. If you're conservative and you're open to listening to liberal views, great. If you're not, also great. But this is pre-warning. This is a pretty biased podcast where we talk about our views, and they're gonna tend to be liberal. Now, of course, we'll talk about both sides and choose what side we want to be on.
Uh-huh. So, our first topic that we have to discuss about, I don't know if you've heard about this, but recently in the news, they stated that Trump was threatening to shut down the government without Democratic support for the wall border to Mexico. I don't understand this because I don't believe that he will ever get Democratic support, and he really doesn't get support from his own party when it comes to this topic.
He's just throwing a temper tantrum.
And for some
He's
reason,
stomping his feet on the ground.
yes.
I want my wall.
Oh, that's so good. So and I think in the news at some point they mentioned that Trump was like, maybe I'll shut down the government, but at first he was very confident to say, if I don't get support on this wall, I'm shutting down the government.
It's already happened.
Yes.
He's already shut down the government once and everything exploded.
Yes, I don't really agree with how he approached it because no one really is going to give him support for that wall border, especially since it's just awful. It's an awful idea. He's had this idea since the beginning of his political campaign. It really just does not make sense to me how he would really want that support so badly. Because he's just never going to get it, not even from his own party.
He's basically just trying to undo everything Obama tried to do. And that goes along with things like spending. So he's not going to be able to get the necessary funding he needs in a supportive, easy way. I feel like he could manage to get it, but it would cause a lot of turmoil. So he's already on the brink of impeachment, whether people say he is or he isn't. It's being talked about, it's being thrown around, it's there. And I will live for the day he gets dragged out of the White House in handcuffs because It's happening and it's gonna come. And there's people in his party, all of his little supporters, who think that he's gonna get elected a second term. But with the stuff that's been going on recently with like locking up children, I don't think that's happening, honestly.
Yeah, and one thing that I would like to bring up is that most of the people who really just voted for him considerably were uneducated about who the candidate really was. They just really supported him because of his Republican views, his conservative views.
They supported him because the only thing they knew was, oh, he speaks his mind. I want a president who speaks their mind. That was a big part, and a lot of people didn't want Hillary because the
Crooked
first
Hillary.
things that pop into their head was Benghazi and the emails.
Mm-hmm. Our next topic is America's increase in gross domestic product. The increase in GDP actually came to a surprise to me, especially under Trump's presidency. He increased to about 3.9%, and it hasn't been that high since not that high, but it hasn't been that high for a long time. It's definitely not the highest it's been. The highest it's been for since 2010s was during Obama's presidency. But I don't understand why his son said that Obama didn't increase the GDP, because he definitely did during his presidency.
Um, I think the reason why he says those type of things is because, like I said before, the Trump administration is doing everything they can to undo Obama's policies. So they're trying to make him look bad, even though, like you said, it's a fact that it was higher under Obama. But they don't want to seem like Obama did better than them. So they're trying to make the people who are too blatantly stupid to read for themselves and only listen to the Trump administration believe that they are right and that Obama is this terrible human that is was failing the economy.
That's quite an interesting view on it, because I don't really hear that much, especially since I am from a red state. I don't like. I've had talked about politics before with other people, but every time I've mentioned something about Obama's successes, some of the people that I've discussed them with, they tend to avoid that topic of Obama's successes.
That and they either they don't avoid it and they shoot it down or they avoid it altogether because they're not educated when it comes to the Obama administration and they don't know what they did. All they hear is failing Obamacare, even though it didn't.
Um, our next topic is there's a TV host that I think I remember that I don't exactly remember what the television show was, but it was hosted by Sacha Baron Cohen, and he was confronting Alabama politician Roy Moore.
Okay.
Roy Moore, if you have lived under a rock during the whole year, Roy Moore was accused of sexual misconduct, and that's what caused, for the most part,
Not
Doug
only
Jones
sexual
to win.
misconduct,
But
but with a minor,
yeah,
multiple minors.
that's who. I kind of forgot that detail, so thank you for that detail. I feel bad for forgetting that, because I just remember seeing on the article it was just sexual misconduct.
Sexual misconduct with multiple minors in the 70s and a lot of there was a lot of women that came forward who were minors and weren't minors. They were minors at the time and they came forward more recently before the election. So because the argument was, oh, they're only coming forward to upset the vote, but no one just comes forward and outs themselves like that.
And that's kind of what caused Doug Jones to win that election, which I'm
Exactly.
very proud
I
of.
was so shocked. I was like, oh my god, a Democrat in Alabama.
That really shocked me too, considering Alabama is really red. It is a really big red state, like it's really huge on Republicans. But it was really shocking, but I kind of understood the reasoning behind him becoming senator, because of course of all of that all that whole topic going around with Roy Moore committing sexual conduct with multiple minors in the 70s.
Exactly.
Our next topic doesn't actually come from America, it comes from the Middle East. Iran's currency was dropped by 13%,
Oh,
which is
I was not aware of this.
that actually really shocked me. I'm not very cultured on economics. I'm really trying to become more cultured on the terms, but a drop in currency is not very good. In fact, I think it's actually pretty bad, especially with how much it dropped by in Iran. 13%? Goodness gracious. Like, that means it's like the currency there is honestly worth less.
Do you think it has something to do with the Iran nuclear deal
I
that
I
Trump
I
put in
think
place?
it could be, but it could also be because there is I think quote me if I'm wrong, there is a current civil war going on right now. And it was either Iran or Iraq. Let me look this up, actually. I'm going to actually go crazy if I don't know. Iran civil war. Is there one going on right now? Or is that Iraq?
I don't actually know.
Is Iraq.
Lately, I have been more invested in American politics because of our current presidency, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to, because my future is in historical education. I need to look more into European politics
My,
instead of
yeah.
paying attention to just the United States.
My history is also, or not my history, my profession is also going to be in historical education, so I have to be prepared for either world history, U.S. history, or world geography, or government economics, federal government economics. I would love to be a federal government economics teacher, but I know that's
Same.
not going to happen. That's not going to happen the first try. So, of course, being educated on things like this would definitely be something to be noteworthy of. Our next topic. You've heard about the deal with Russia and how they've been really involved in our politics.
Oh, very much so.
Um, some people in an article put a question up: is colluding with Russia a good idea? Republicans are becoming more aware of this, and they're thinking that's a good idea to collude with Russia. Do you think that is a good idea?
Well, of course not, because Russia works on a different plane than we do, and colluding with Russia can result in a number of things. Um, right now, uh, Putin's responsible for. How do I say this? A lot of the turmoil that is going on in between the two political parties, because like you said, some do argue, is it a good idea, is it a bad idea, is it good to get close to Russia, is it bad? Well, great, it's good to have a good relationship with other countries because Russia is an ally, but getting too close to a country like that can cause things like the elections to get hacked,
And
which
rigged.
technically right now is still a theory, but I mean, read up about it, look at the facts. It happened. Letting them too close to our economics and letting them control us could mean the demise for modern day democracy in America, because obviously they do not follow such things. So I don't think we should get too cozy with a country like that.
In a presentation that my 11th grade U.S. history teacher proposed or created, he mentioned something about Russia being a threat to us. It is going to be, although the Soviet Union is gone, it is going to continue being a threat to our country, and it's going to be a threat to our politics. Even though it is a theory right now, I believe this theory that if we were to get getting too close with Russia during our election, Russia could potentially do something to our politics and economics if we continue letting them on too close. I know Republicans think that it's a good idea because, of course, having that good relationship with a country is honestly going to be beneficial to you, especially if there were to be a conflict or a war going on. But I don't agree with how they think it would be good to get too close. I really don't agree with that because really getting close to someone in their politics is going to alter them by a lot, especially since there's that theory going around where Russia was involved with our politics during the 2016 presidential election.
At this point, I don't think it's a theory. A lot of them, they're okay. So Trump has called this like a witch hunt about Mueller's investigation, but if it was just a witch hunt, we were just looking for things to be wrong. Um, I believe it's 11, 11 of his little cronies have been indicted, and two of them are cooperating with the FBI right now against Trump, and they have found um, evidence supporting the Russia hacking our election. So it's not just some. It's definitely something to be concerned with.
I'm going to bring something up that actually is quite similar to this question. Not quite similar, but at least relates. There was a secret agent that came into our country and has been here for the past, I would say, 1 to 3 years. I forget exactly what the articles stated, but this was a woman, and she was
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
yeah,
She's 29 years old, the furniture store owner, and she's posing with like guns and everything.
yeah.
Yeah, I know.
It really does kind of relate to that because if we, as I said, if we were to get too close, I think things like this could
Letting
happen.
people like that in, people talk about not letting people from Mexico in because, and to quote Trump, drug dealers and rapists. We just had a Russian spy in our country. I think that's a little bit more to be concerned with.
Yeah. Um, our next topic and the final one before we get into our segment. Um, in an article that I thought was really well written about economics and how most people, if not almost everyone in America, lives day to day by paycheck. And they mentioned in there that the Republican government has been approving of digital platforms, creating monopolies, and also with fields like pharmaceuticals and food processing merging with each other to create was it, how do you pronounce that, oligopolies, forming those. I don't necessarily agree with that. In fact, I don't even agree with that at all because the Sherman Antitrust Act was in place for a reason. Why are you
Right.
doing this? Because it doesn't make much sense to me. Because, of course, Sherman Antitrust Act was to prevent something like John D. Rockefeller's monopoly of oil to happen again. And the Sherman Antitrust Act came into play when Microsoft was becoming a monopoly or practicing something monopolistic, bundling Word for free with their computers. Doing this to your economy is going to create less competition and it's going to cause products to become more expensive, and there's going to just be that one product, so that's going to be your only option. Competition
Exactly.
is is how do I formulate this sentence? Is beneficial, in fact, almost required for a capitalistic economy. There's no ifs, ands, or buts on that. You have to have competition if you don't want to create a monopoly within your country. There have been
Right.
many
Because
monopolies of that.
if your company is the only company that makes like light poles, say, um, or like drywall. Say your company's the only company ever that makes drywall because you bought all the other companies. People need drywall for their homes. People need that in their homes. So basically what's going to happen is that company can jack up that price as much as they want. They can make a single square foot of drywall like $800 if they want. And if you want drywall, guess how much you're paying for it?
A lot of money.
But for modern day capitalism to work the way it's supposed to, there needs to be more than one drywall company so that the company still makes profit by raising the price slightly, but at the same time, they're going to want it to be cheaper than the other company. Sorry, they're going to want it to be cheaper than the other company. So, Mr. Dude's drywall company over there is like $10 per square foot. Okay, well, I'm going to make mine $9.50, and then obviously the guy who's $9.50 is going to make more because people are going to buy more of that.
I have an economics guide with me right now, and I'm actually going to read out the definition of competition that this competition, competitive advantage, and competitiveness to use for people to understand this. So competition is the more competition there is, the more likely are firms to be efficient and prices to be low. Economists have identified several different sorts of competition. Perfect competition is the most competitive market imaginable in which products are identical and everybody is a price taker, which I don't agree with that much. Firms earn only normal profits, the bare minimum necessary to keep them in business. If firms earn more than this excess profits, other firms will enter the market and drive the price down until there are only normal profits to be made. Most markets, like ours, exhibit some form of imperfect or monopolistic competition. There are fewer firms than in a perfectly competitive market, and each can to some degree create barriers to entry. So firms can earn some excess profits without a new entrant being able to compete to bring prices down. The least competitive market is a monopoly, dominated by a single firm that can earn substantial excess profits by controlling either the amount of output in the market or the price, but not both. In this sense, it is a price setter. When there are a few firms in a market, as I said, oligopoly, which you merge those fields together, they have the opportunity to behave as a monopolist through some form of collision. A market dominated by a single firm does not necessarily have monopoly power if it is a contestable market. In such a market, a single firm can dominate only if it produces as efficiently as possible and does not earn excess products. If it becomes inefficient or earns excess profits, another more efficient or less profitable firm will enter the market and dominate instead. As I read that definition, it reminded me of competitive advantage and how competitive advantage can also be beneficial to an economy because that can give a firm an edge over its rivals. Like, you need that competitive advantage, and you also need that competition within a capitalistic economy. Of course, you probably don't need it too much in a communistic economy, but there really needs to be competition in your economy if you really want there to be. As Alex had put it with that example about drywall, I'm going to have an example about cell phones, since my teacher actually taught me this example through competition and how economies work. So, let's say Samsung is your only cell phone company, and they wiped out Apple, they wiped out Android, and they wiped out LG, and now every electronic and cell phone is manufactured by Samsung. So they can up the price, they can increase the price as much as they want to. And you can't have a cell phone if you can't afford it. Like, you really cannot have a cell phone. Would you rather have competition in your economy and actually afford to buy a cell phone, or would you rather have one cell phone that you cannot purchase?
That's why there's regulations put in, so that, because people would do that. People are greedy. So they're gonna want to be the one to buy up everything so that they're the only option and you have no choice but to spend money on that item. So that's why there's rules put in place that sadly are being manipulated. That's what I'm trying to explain in the story that I'm writing. Yes, I am promoting my book. I'm writing a book called Parallels, and it looks at the parallels between 1940s Germany and modern day America. and I hope to put like economics in it, and in a more entertaining way, of course, to draw readers in. But like I was saying, soon we don't know where this country is going to go if things get repealed. So that's what we're trying to explain is what would happen if those laws went away.
This commercial break was brought to you by Shameless Plugs. You can find us on Twitter at TPCpodcast _ to receive updates about our podcast and see a sneak peek every once in a while. You can also find us on our YouTube at The Political Cabinet to subscribe and receive weekly notifications about our podcast episodes. On our website, you can find our show notes, and you can also find out more about us. Our website is freakinghoodie.wixsite.com/thepoliticalcabinet. We're going to our segment now, which is called Politics Over the Pond. So, Alex doesn't know much about British politics, and I don't really understand it either, but I've been watching a podcast, shameless plug, created by Wilco. He's a YouTuber who has a podcast called Parliamentary Language, and they are both British people, and they explain politics in a really great manner. I really enjoy their podcast. But they mentioned a lot in their recent episodes about Brexit, and recent news came up. I read an article on Reddit, and by the way, I'm going to link all of our articles and sources that I have mentioned in the description, so if you want to go look at those articles yourselves, feel free to look in the description for those sources. But this in particular was a thread of Twitter posts about how Theresa May wasn't really handling the deal with Brexit well. As you know, Brexit, the best referendum to have occurred, or the worst referendum to occur in Britain. But Brexit is, of course, what has happened due to Britain leaving the EU, and it has caused a lot of turmoil in their economy. It has caused that in their politics as well, and they're trying to get a good deal. The government is trying to get a good deal for the Brexit, but it's really difficult too because they're not handling the situation very well. In fact, the statistics go only 10% of people believe that the British government is handling Brexit well. 10%. And you may think, wow, that 10% is kind of stupid for believing that that they're actually handling the deal very well, because they're really not. Most people actually believe that oh my god, I keep saying breakfast. Brexit. I'm telling you, breakfast is like is the most important referendum. But Brexit was honestly the worst thing to have came out of Theresa May's prime ministership, if that's how you call it. My apologies if I use the wrong terms. I'm also trying to get accustomed, but I don't agree with Brexit. It really damages their economy, but there's also like a couple of ways for the deal to actually
That's why it was so shocking when it first came to surface. Everyone was like, what?
Like, and I was really shocked when I first heard about it as well. It was quite like shocking to see that. But there are a few ways that it can go. It could go really well, and they can actually leave the EU and not leave the EU entirely, but some things were to occur. As I've said, I'm not very accustomed, so I don't remember the exact terms that were available. It can either go into a good deal, bad deal, things like that. And it really bothers me to know that 10% of people think that that's right, that the way that they're running it, they're dealing with it is right. But what do you think about Brexit in general?
In all honesty, I would have to become a little more educated on the topic to have a stronger opinion. But economically, that was a very, very big upset to them, and I don't know why they did it because it seemed so sudden when it happened. Like, it kind of just came out of nowhere. So I would have to read up a little more on it, honestly.
As I said, I really do not agree with Brexit. It really affects the relationship
In
between.
total, from based off of what I do know, I don't agree with it either. Just because it seems like they didn't think about it. It seems like they were just like, "All right, let's go."
Uh, so I don't necessarily I of course do not agree with it at all, but it really bothers me that about the relationship between the government and its people in Britain. Like the confidence has seriously gotten low with their government. And of course America, where has the confidence been since Eisenhower's presidency? But this is an all-time low for Britain and how they view their government. I will link the other statistics in the description as well with the sources. I don't remember them off the top of my head, and I really should. Actually, next episode, I should probably write notes so I remember the exact sources and will not have to rely on my really awful memory. But
Same. This, yeah, obviously, this is our first episode, and it's going to be a little shaky. Obviously, it's going to be more structured as we move along, but bear with us. We will get there.
and a little bit about more about us since we didn't really talk too much about it. Of course, you may know me. Maybe I don't know. It's your life. I don't know. But my name is Anabelle, otherwise known as Abstract Scope. I make YouTube videos over at Abstract Scope, and I also do create art on that I post to my Behance and my Newgrounds. I am a history nerd. I love history with a burning passion. It is my favorite subject of all time, except besides literature, because I also love literature. Go frick math. Uh, but I love history. I love history, and I'm really trying to get more into politics and economics. My history teacher, two history teachers of mine, really inspired me to go into education. And in fall of 2019, I will be going to a university to study education and not achieve, but acquire my education degree and my teacher's certification. Uh, I plan on teaching 7 to 12th grade students and try and avoid teaching Texas history at all costs because that is the most boring and tedious class that I've ever been in. And I hate document-based questions. Don't teach your students with those because they're awful.
We hate it.
And a little bit more on Alex.
Okay. So, my name is Alex. I don't really have an established place on YouTube. I've never made a YouTube channel. This is my first. I do like to write. I like to write poems. I like to write stories. And I'm currently writing a story called Parallels. And you can find that on Wattpad. The link will be in the description. But with my education, I am currently getting my basics out of the way at a local community college, and I plan to transfer to a 4-year university and hopefully study abroad in Germany. I absolutely adore history. Literature is my other favorite, and my focal point of history currently is the Holocaust. My book that I'm writing is obviously inspired by the Holocaust, as I mentioned. 1940s Germany, it's like a dystopian novel type thing. But I also want to get a degree in history and later go on to teach high school history. My favorite part of history, the favorite class that I've taken was civics and economics, and I hope to read more into politics and get more involved into European politics so that I can become more educated. But that's about it on me.
I would also like to mention my focal point currently. I'm actually currently focusing more on the Great Depression and the New Deal. Both of those are my favorite topics in United States history. I also like discussing about monopolies and how monopolies in the 1910s and in the late 1800s, basically the big industries and robber barons. Yes. I love those topics so much. Men Who Built America, I recommend that series if you really want to get into monopolies and how how they were affected by people like J.P. Morgan, John D. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, the big names. Uh, Cornelius Vanderbilt. They're like, I love that section of history, and I have many books over the New Deal. And one day, I hope to actually write a small, very small, I would say like a one chapter story, I guess, about Copper Country, because of the Italian Hall disaster in 1913, because that's a very interesting portion of history that I never knew about until recently. I actually will probably never write that, but it's an idea. I love that section.
I also wanted to add, Annabelle mentioned her inspirations. Probably my biggest inspiration is a teacher that I had this past year who helped me through a lot and really inspired me to rekindle my spirit for education. Um, and the fact that he really got me back into politics because I kind of fell in a rut for a while and wasn't really paying attention to anything. And he kind of made it fun. So I want to credit him to that. So thank you, my high school civics and economics teacher. But
So
I
that
also one day would like to go into politics, hopefully get into smaller politics like local politics and build my way up.
so you're thinking of being a politician?
Possibly. I like to argue.
There really isn't much arguing in this series because both of us have similar views. But if there was an actual liberal and conservative, oh my god, I can probably see so
Yeah.
much arguing.
Maybe one of these times, you guys can suggest this to us. Maybe we'll get someone on the show to counteract our views and more have like a counter discussion. Not an argument. Maybe an argument. But you know.
But that is all from us today on the Political Cabinet. Thank you for watching. Stay involved in your politics if you are of age to register to vote. And
Yes, please register to vote.
again, thank you for watching the first episode, and we will see you next week. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye. Please.
And
And pre-register to vote if you're 17.
oh, I'm 17. Should I pre-register?
Oh, yes, of course.
Oh,
You
okay.
didn't know that?
No, I didn't know Texas
Next
had
time,
that.
go to the DMV. Oh, well, maybe North Carolina does.
All right.